Hey guys, what's going on? Got another review here for you. This is the Benchmade Proxy 928. I didn't know this knife existed because I previously bought a pretty good amount of knives off Blade HQ, and they do not offer this knife. I never did see it on there. I say bought, I used their references a lot to look up knives and their specs. It's real easy to look a knife up and find out a lot about it on their site. They have a great site. I was wanting to get into a few titanium frame lock knives and wasn't even aware that Benchmade offered this knife. It's a pretty large knife. Another thing is this knife has a great blade steel, 20 CV. I like M390 and 20 CV. I'm a big fan. I came across this knife in a trade. Traded a Benchmade Balisong for it that I picked up as pawn shop treasure. The only thing I didn't like was the color of the G10. But then I found out that you can dye the G10. I'm definitely going to do that. This is a really good knife. I wasn't a fan of frame locks simply just because I hadn't been around them a lot, and I'm such a huge fan of the axis lock and the plunge locks. You know, one of my favorite locks is the plunge lock on the Smooth Criminal. I think that is cool. But you know, frame locks have their place. And I was on a journey to get the Chris Reeves knife. Of course, you know that when you're chasing that knife, it takes a while. That's an expensive knife. But this was an intermediate that I came across, and it almost got away from me a couple of times. I posted it for sale, and I almost traded it, and almost gave it away to a family member, and I'm glad that it stayed in my collection because I grew to like it. I found myself grabbing it pretty often to stick in my pocket, especially when I knew I was going to do some work that day and I was going to be really using a knife. This was a great knife for that. It is solid. It has the mono lock, so there's zero frame lock. It's, you know, smooth, ball bearing action. Not the greatest frame lock knife on the market. I'm definitely not going to claim that, but it's a nice one. I'll tell you what, and it's in the Benchmade family. I mean, you know, I'm a huge fan of Benchmade. Always have been, always will be. The fit and finish on the knife is perfect. Centering is off just a little bit, but that doesn't bother me. I'm not a freak about that. The knife just performs perfectly, and it's probably the largest EDC that I have. Before that, I had a Damas in my rotation. That was just too big. I mean, that's to me, that's a fixed blade that folds. You know, this is a cool knife. I'm really looking forward to dyeing those G10 scales. I think I'm going to do black, and I think it'd be really nice at that point. I mean, you can tell these are actually my two largest EDC knives, and that you can tell they kind of modeled it as far as size after the Sabenza. I mean, it's really, really close. Definitely not a Sabenza, it stands alone, but I was just curious why Blade HQ didn't ever offer this knife, but I looked it up and found it on a few other sites, and when this man offered to trade me, I jumped on it, and I'm glad I kept it because I find myself carrying it at least a couple of days a week, which, you know, with me, I always find myself carrying the latest and greatest knife that I have. I think a lot of us do that, and of course my favorite knife in the whole world, that makes its way into my pocket regularly. But this knife I find myself using more than any of my other knives. It's probably my best user. The titanium shows, you know, quite a bit of scratches and stuff, but they're pretty even. I mean, it doesn't look like a worn out knife. A great blade steel, and it's just I mean, you really have to get on it a little bit to flip it, but I mean, the lockup on it is incredible. I mean, it feels like a fixed blade knife. They just did a really great job. I saw in a couple of other reviews people kind of ragging on the pocket clip. I think it works. I think that pocket clip's great. The only complaint I have about this knife is color, and that's definitely going to be fixed shortly. But let's check the length on that blade. It's right at 3 3/4, and full length is 8 3/4. I mean, it's a large knife. I mean, look at it up against the Nakamura. I mean, it swallows it. Up against the 940. I mean, the 940 is thin, but it's a long knife, and it's bigger than that. It's the largest EDC that I have, for sure. Griptilian. Now, if you guys come across one of these and you're into titanium frame locks, you won't be disappointed. I grab this knife often. It creeps its way into my pocket. It wasn't one I bought because I wanted it, or that I got because I wanted it. It just creeped its way into my collection and has made a place there. So give it a shot. If you run across one, pick it up. Keep this one short. You guys have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.